Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by SurvivingBreastCancer.org. I'm Laura Carfing, breast cancer survivor and founder of SurvivingBreastCancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. Welcome back to another episode of Breast Cancer Conversations. I am so glad you guys are here today joining us. This is a recording from one of our MBC webinar series that we produce every other Wednesday and live stream on social media. So if you are ever available on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, you can always catch these shows live. So today we are talking about parenting with MBC. I am going to put some links to all of these fabulous resources in the show notes below, as well as a link to the PowerPoint presentation that some of our panelists reference as part of the conversation. If you're new to Breast Cancer Conversations, I'd like to recommend that you hop on over to survivingbreastcancer.org/events, where you can find all of our free programs and services from expressive writing, art therapy, support groups for those living with metastatic disease, inflammatory breast cancer, as well as so many other amazing resources such as yoga and Pilates, Qigong, meditation. I mean, the list really goes on. So hop on over to survivingbreastcancer.org/events, where you can get connected with our community. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Welcome to the conversation.
So welcome everyone to this episode of the MBC webinar series with SurvivingBreastCancer.org. And this particular discussion is going to be about resources for parents living with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer.
Thanks for having me. My name is Carissa Hodgson. I'm the Director of Programs and Community Outreach at Bright Spot Network. And we support parents who have a cancer diagnosis and young children. So we primarily focus on helping parents to parent through a cancer diagnosis, especially for those little kiddos. But we support partners as well as children as well. So our idea is to build community and empower parents, give them the resources they need to feel like they can have those hard conversations and cope with a cancer diagnosis.
So when you say young children, what do you define as being young?
Yeah, good question. We focus on kids 0 to 6, though a lot of our parents have children up through adolescence. So really 0 to 12.
Wonderful. And then your background, Carissa, what is it that you personally bring to the table?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker and certified oncology social worker. I've been supporting families facing cancer for over 15 years. I was really drawn to this work because of just my personal experience. My father died of lung cancer when I was 7, and my stepfather died of lung cancer when I was a young adult. So working with families who are navigating a cancer diagnosis is something very near and dear to my heart. And now as the adult child, I really have that perspective and weave it into my work, and really am honored to work with families who are trying to navigate a really difficult situation.
It's beautiful, Carissa. I find the people that have some personal connection to this work can often use that to be even more compassionate and connect with people in a different way. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here. Airn, would you like to go next and introduce yourself and a little bit about living beyond breast cancer?
Yes, I would be happy to. Thank you so much for having me on tonight's panel. So my name is Airn Ahlum Hanson, and I am work at Living Beyond Breast Cancer as our Director of Outreach. So for those that aren't familiar with us, Living Beyond Breast Cancer is a national breast cancer nonprofit whose mission it is to provide trusted breast cancer information and a community of support. And the organization provides information support for people diagnosed with breast cancer at all stages, early stage and metastatic, but we have a strong focus and commitment to those in the metastatic breast cancer community. Roughly about 40% of our programming and resources is for the MBC community, and we are proud to offer longest standing, largest national conference for the MBC community. So I wanted to highlight that too. So tonight I'll be sharing about our parenting resources, including our Reading for Reassurance program, which is something we've offered since 2012. And I will add, since it's a parenting focused conversation, I'm a mama to a 2.5-year-old, so I have that.
Thank you, Erin, and thank you for being here. So many organizations that try to do things for the early stage community don't always do an amazing job for the metastatic community as well, because those communities can be very, very different. But Living Beyond Breast Cancer is one of those organizations that has a commitment to meeting people where they are, whether they're early stage or metastatic. So really appreciate LBBC and all it does for those of us in the metastatic community. And thank you for being here, Erin. All right, Kelsey, you are up. If you'd like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Pickles, and you've got to explain where the name Pickles comes from.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey Mora. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer for Pickles Group. Pickles is an organization that supports the children of adult cancer patients. So we were actually started by 3 founding families, and the kids themselves named Pickles Group. So we provide a lot of opportunities for kids to support each other and come together in youth circles and youth opportunities. And then we also provide parent guidance on how to have difficult conversations with their kids about cancer. So my background is as a dual certified child life specialist and therapist. So I do a lot of the clinical curriculum designing and volunteer training for all of our youth programming.
And what are the ages of the children that Pickles focuses on?
Yeah, great question. So we put the kiddos in age-based groups or development-based groups, but we provide youth groups for children in 1st through 12th grade. And our parent education is really appropriate for the whole developmental lifespan.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Kelsey. As I've talked to other parents, there is seems like there's a lot more information out there, although not enough, for younger children. But as kids hit adolescence and start experiencing other things like puberty, there's just a whole other layer. So very happy to have you here today, Kelsey, to talk about some of that. And then our last panelist is here because she is an author and has recently published a book that would encompass the MBC experience. So Sara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Sara. Thank you so much for having me. My first book was called What Happens When Someone I Love Has Cancer. And this book was written because I was diagnosed in 2017 with stage 2 breast cancer. And when I was trying to explain to my 6-year-old daughter what was going on, I did not really like what was out there. I wanted to be able to explain from a scientific point of view what cancer actually is, because I run a company called Mighty and Bright that's based on, the brain development and science of how kids learn. And I knew that they could handle more than books were providing. So this book explained the science of cancer and how treatment affects a kid's day-to-day life. And it leaves it open-ended, as like some people live with cancer for the rest of their lives. So it's not one of these, like, it only works for early stage, people, but living with metastatic breast cancer is a totally different experience. And there's a lot that goes into it. And it feels almost like people who are living with a chronic illness, in that there are a lot of things that, kids might get excited about being able to do, and then they're disappointed because, maybe you're not feeling that well that day. And so there's a lot that kids have to deal with that has absolutely nothing to do with the cancer itself, and more to do with just like ongoing exhaustion or, different supports that you need in order to help your body work the way that you would like it to work. So I partnered with a child life specialist at the Mayo Clinic, and this is my new book. And the whole purpose of this book is to explain how the body works and why sometimes it might not work the way that we would like it to, and how that can affect a child's day-to-day life. And it applies to chronic and terminal illnesses. And so I'm very excited about this book. And I hope that you will be able to check it out. There's a whole resource in the back that is helpful for having conversations about this topic and how you can set your kids up for success when it comes to disappointment or any of the number of things that I'm sure we will get into.
Thank you, Sara. When Sara and I talked a few months ago about having this panel, the book had not been published yet. So we were very excited that it was published in time. So we actually have 2 copies to give away tonight for people who are attending live and interacting. We will pick 2 people to send you a copy of What Happens When Someone I Love Doesn't Feel Good, a book about illness that won't go away. So stay tuned for how we're going to be selecting 2 of you to receive one of those books, but you can find it on Amazon. And they finally added it to Goodreads, by the way. So I was like trying to review it on Goodreads and it still was, anyway, it's in there now. So you can read it and write a review on Amazon or Goodreads so that it is brought up to the attention for more people, because one of the things that I was really frustrated about when I was diagnosed in 2017, my boys were 1 and 3 at the time, there were not books that I could find that really adequately explained what it was like when there was a metastatic diagnosis. And that was frustrating to me. I am a lifelong reader. If any of you follow me on Goodreads, I'm almost to 400 books for this year. I read a lot, and books have been really integral in my parenting, because you're not saying it to your child, you're reading a book. And so there's a little bit more of a distance, right, to allow them to process in a different way versus like sitting them down, because you can't really sit down a 1 and a 3-year-old and be like, this is what's happening with mommy. But reading a book is a much more palatable experience sometimes with kids. And then the thing I love about Sara's books are there are discussion guides and other questions or other things to be able to build on the kind of the foundation of what the book talks about. So anyway, stay tuned for those opportunities. And we're so thankful, Sara, that you partnered with Jenny Rogers at the Mayo Clinic to write this book for those of us in the metastatic community and, chronic and all of that. So, so now that we've gotten past introductions, Sara, did you want to say something? I'm sorry, I saw you unmuted yourself. Okay. So now that we've gotten past introductions, I'd like to go around our virtual room again and really focus on how a person, a parent or a grandparent or other adults in a child's life who are concerned about that child's experience with a parent with cancer, how they might engage with your individual organizations. And I think, Carissa, since you are next to me, we'll have you do that first. And I think that Laura has gotten our technical difficulties ironed out so that we can share your slides.
All right. Sounds great. There they are. At Bright Spot Network, we really focus on parents who have a cancer diagnosis and their partners. So at the next slide, we have just sort of the origin story. So our executive director, Haley Pollack, was diagnosed with stage 3C colon cancer after she had just had her 2nd child. And she was really trying to figure out how to navigate being a new mom and having to wean before she was ready and having a toddler who was high energy and was trying to understand how to figure all of that out. And there really wasn't that information out there. So she and her co-founder, Amy Barnes, who had also just had a baby, said, we really need to create community for parents like us who are really trying to parent young children who are possibly pre-verbal, who are high energy, infants, issues regarding attachment, weight issues, not being able to hold children, all of those very important essentials of having a young child that a cancer diagnosis totally disrupts. So they created Bright Spot Network. Next slide. And really, like I said before, we are all about creating community for parents who are diagnosed when they were pregnant or having a young child. And we serve parents anywhere in the United States. We also serve partners All of our programs are virtual and provided at no cost. Next slide. So one of our foundational programs is our Bright Reads program, where we send free books about cancer, big emotions, and grief and loss to families. And we've heard so often that for a lot of parents who are struggling to find the right words, books are very helpful. And we've already kind of talked about how important books are. And so books can really help parents to delve into that discussion. It really helps children to feel very, validated and normalized. They see their family represented, or a version of their family. And knowing how important these books are, in the last year, we've created discussion guides that accompany all of our books, because we've heard from parents that it's so great to read the text, but we know that books are more than just the text. And so we wanted parents to have discussion prompts, simple art activities, movement games, that kind of thing, to help kids process even more what a cancer diagnosis is like in their family. And all of those discussion guides are free and downloadable on our website. We also have a Bright Box, because parents who are in treatment are exhausted, and they have young children that want to play, and they want to build, they want to do things with their parents. And so often parents can barely muster enough energy to truly just sit up from the couch. So we created Bright Box, which is everything parents need to spend a few hours with their child creating art and having fun. So these are something that parents can request on our website. Next slide. We offer financial assistance in the form of a Bright Grant for parents who are in active treatment or recent survivorship and are the primary caregiver for a child 0 to 6. Next slide. For parents who have just had a child, we offer a postpartum support box, which is just a nice self-care type of box to get in the mail. Next slide. I do offer family resource navigation. I just did one of these again today. So for parents who are looking to get connected to more local resource, if they're looking for in-person support groups in their state and near their city, if they are looking specifically for, financial, legal type of resources, I help direct them to the right resources. I also coach parents on how to have tough conversations, especially if a cancer diagnosis progresses, if a parent now is looking at a terminal diagnosis. Those can be really hard conversations. So I help parents to find the right words, possibly role play a little bit, and get connected to resources that will help in that conversation. Next slide. We offer support groups for everyone in the family. We have groups for parents who are in active treatment early survivorship, parents who are in long-term survivorship. We have a stage 4 group, which actually meets twice monthly, because we have so many moms and dads who have a stage 4 metastatic cancer diagnosis. And we have a twice monthly partner group. And a lot of these partners have a husband or a wife who has a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. We do also partner with the Healing Circle, partner with Smith Center for Healing and the Arts to provide a healing circle, which is a very special type of support group for parents. Next slide. We do offer some connections for kids. So we offer a monthly activity group called Bright Circle and Bright Club. The first one is for a parent and caregiver for kids 0 to 5, and then Bright Club is for older children 5 to 12. And it's an opportunity to build community for kids virtually. So across the United States, kids can log on and see other kids who have a mom or dad with cancer. Sometimes they're doing more cancer-specific activities, such as this picture is showing doing a checkup on stuffies. We did a teddy bear clinic that really helped to empower kids to understand more about medical treatment and terms relating to cancer treatment, and a virtual tour of a hospital. Sometimes we're talking about coping with big emotions, changes in the family, and it's all done through art and play with child life specialists. And again, that's broken up into the young kids and the older kids. And next slide. We also have virtual activities for kids that are not online. So we have birthday cards that kids receive, this is where our teenagers get involved. A lot of our teenage children of parents volunteer. And one way they volunteer is they hand make birthday cards that are tailored to each kid's sort of specific interests. And they get them mailed out, which is really fun and special. And then we will do exchanges throughout the year, like a Valentine's Day exchange where we match kids up, or we did a summer pen pal activity group. So these are just other ways to build community for kids. We do events throughout the year. We partner with other organizations to create writing workshops and art workshops. We've done Lego building where we send activities ahead of time and then families log in and we all do it together, which is a really great way to build community for families. And it's neat to see all the different families on the screen building Legos and doing art together. And though it might not be explicitly cancer related, it is a great way to feel like these families are making connections. We've done webinars, and these are recorded on our website, and sometimes we do in-person play dates. Lastly, we have a lot of resources on our website. This is great for, especially for parents in the middle of the night if they're wanting to go somewhere to find some reliable information. We have coloring pages with different cancer themes and feeling wheels that kids can decorate to help them navigate some big feelings, customizable coloring books, Ask a Therapist videos, a parenting blog, recorded webinars, and a lot of different downloadable handouts. And I believe, that's it for me.
Thank you, Carissa.
Yeah.
I will say that my kids did one of the group activities where they got on a Zoom once a week and did a variety of different crafts, and they loved it. And it was kids of different, the children's parents had different types of cancer. But from a kid's perspective, they don't care where the cancer began, right? I mean, the parents might be on different medications, but they don't care. It was more about connecting with other kids who were going through something that they were going through. And it was really impactful for them. I don't know how much they really remember about that because it was last year and they're young.
Right.
But connecting with other kids who have similar experiences, that doesn't happen on a day-to-day basis, at least in our lives. So Carissa, when you talk to people, are they hungering for this type of connection because they just can't find it locally?
Yes. I think what's nice about offering virtual programs, number one, it builds a greater community, right? Because you're using the entire United States. A lot of parents going through cancer are immunocompromised. So they also, even if there was an in-person local group, it's too dangerous. Or we know parents, they're busy. We've got busy schedules. And so a lot of times what you offer doesn't always meet the right time and doesn't fit. So I do think what's nice about our different support groups is they're pretty accessible and it bridges, again, the entire United States and really gives you a bigger pool to create these sort of subgroups and affinity groups. And I think that's what's made our stage 4 group so valuable because, these parents are saying, I've got my mom friends and they're great, but they have no idea what it's like to try and parent through cancer. And my cancer friends are usually older. They don't get what it's like to have young kids. And you guys get it. You really understand what I'm going through and it's invaluable. And it's really wonderful to be able to offer that space.
And how great that you guys have something for caregivers too, because our caregivers, our spouses, our partners who are helping us through this experience, they are the unsung heroes that often really just, there isn't anything available for them. So thank you for remembering those other people who are helping too.
Yes, definitely. I mean, they also need that space because they feel like they can only say positive things, right? I mean, they feel selfish if they take any energy away. And so this is often the only time that they get that they can be completely honest and transparent and have other people validating it. So I do think it's a really important space.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Carissa, for explaining. And for anybody who's watching, Carissa does these one-on-ones where she will talk to you individually and really help you craft a plan that is individual and specific to you, which I think is just really invaluable as well. So thank you for being here. And we'll be sharing some contact information for Carissa as well so that you know how to get in touch with her as we move through the webinar this evening. So Airn, would love to turn to you if you could talk about the programs that are available through Living Beyond Breast Cancer and how somebody might engage with LBBC on this issue.
Yeah, happy to share more. So as I shared in my introduction, Living Beyond Breast Cancer has a lot of different resources on many different topics. So in this short presentation, I'll just be sharing the resources we have on for parents and sharing more about the Reading for Reassurance program. But if anyone wants to learn more about the depth and breadth of all the rest of our work, you can visit our website and get a good sense of it as well. So next slide. So I wanted to highlight here the Reading for Reassurance program. This is a program that came to LBBC in 2012, and it came from a woman named Margaret Zuccotti, who was a former elementary school teacher and also living with MBC. And she was very passionate and has children herself, and was looking again for a curated list of books that she could use for these important conversations within her family. So she started this program independently, and then brought it to our organization as a way to partner with us. Margaret is still involved in the program, and when we add additional books, she vets and reviews them as well as other staff members and people involved with vetting our book list. So what the Reading for Reassurance program is as Carissa was sharing, LBBC also agrees wholeheartedly. The books are such a great tool for answering many of the questions that children often have about a parent or a grandparent's facing illness. And so people that are interested in this program can go online and request 2 free children's books about cancer to really help aid in those conversations. And these books, we have books from the kind of age range is from 4 to 17. And excuse me, we have about 13 books in our library, and including Sarah's first book is included as well. And if someone's interested, they can select the actual book that they want to receive in their package, or ask staff to select ones. Excuse me, select one that's just tailored to their child's age as well. Excuse me. We also have created discussion guides that are tailored to one's age that are included in the packets and can also be downloaded from the website. Similar to what Abigail was sharing, it is very hard to find resources specifically on MBC and parenting. We do have one book, The Cancer That Won't Go Away, which is about metastatic cancer, not specifically breast, but is our one book currently, although we're excited to see Sarah's new book soon. And it's a way to expand into that area more. But many of the other titles are general enough for these conversations for people with early stage as well as metastatic. So, excuse me, I was not coughing until I, of course, have to present. So we can go to the next slide. I also wanted to highlight a few additional parenting resources that we have. So we have a section of our website that has a number of pages of content that focus on parenting. Caring for your mental health is a focus on there, caring for your children's mental health, as well as talking with your children, including some suggested prompts for having those important conversations. We have a pretty robust blog that is often featuring stories of parents sharing their advice. And so you can search our blog archive as well. We have a number of videos and podcasts that feature stories of parents living with MBC. So we had a short video featuring the story of Amanda and her family. And then just this last year, we released Candid Conversations with Young Women about Breast Cancer. And many of the women that were featured in that podcast are living with metastatic breast cancer and parents, including Deb, who I saw in the comments, who's joined us live. So you can hear Deb's great story in that podcast. I also wanted to mention our closed Facebook group, Breast Cancer Support for Young Women. This group is not solely focused on parenting, but as you can imagine, parenting is a very common topic that's discussed in that group too. So if you go onto Facebook, you can find us by searching those terms. So those are some of our resources, but through our community, there's a lot. Parenting is often a very common topic and area of connection within our community members. And then the next slide, one of a great way to get connected to Living Beyond Breast Cancer and our amazing metastatic breast cancer community is to attend our annual conference. So to save the date for that, it will be in April 19th through 21st next year. We will have online programming as well as our on-site in-person conference in Philadelphia, and parenting topics will be covered, especially in our Shared Voices panel, which is our closing plenary where we have parents sharing their experience too. So those are some of our highlights.
Thank you, Airn. The LBBC conference is one that is on my calendar every year. And I know a lot of people were disappointed that we were virtual for up until this year. So COVID certainly disrupted a lot of those times of interpersonal connection in person, which I think are so key. Zoom is great. Something like StreamYard is great for connecting with people when you need to across the miles, but there is nothing that can replace seeing somebody in person and being able to hug and interact with people face to face. So highly recommend the LBBC conference. And also just wanted to have a brief shout out for the Hear My Voice program. Every year, Living Beyond Breast Cancer trains a group of metastatic patients in advocacy and in being able to use their voices and to speak up on behalf of themselves and other people living with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Certainly parenting was a big conversation during my class, which was one of the last classes to meet solely in person in 2019. But would highly recommend anybody who's living with metastatic breast cancer to consider applying. I believe the applications open in January. Am I right on that, Airn?
That's right. Yes. So, and if you're not on our mailing list, please join our mailing list. That would be the best way to learn about when we're recruiting for the next Hear My Voice class. So the recruitment opens in January, and the training will be held virtually in April, but there will be an optional in-person meetup at the Metastatic Breast Cancer Conference. And if you're accepted into the program, we do provide some travel and grant assistance to help you get there too. So it's a very remarkable program with amazing alumni, including Abigail, all across the country. So thank you for mentioning that.
A whole lot of us who are advocates in this space got our start at the Hear My Voice program because the relationships that you're making with other people in this space, as well as getting to know the staff at Living Beyond Breast Cancer, can really jumpstart people's advocacy efforts. So I always recommend that people consider doing that. So thank you for being here, Airn, and for giving us a little more information about the parenting resources at Living Beyond Breast Cancer. We also got some books from the Reading for Reassurance program, and they were really helpful, especially at the beginning of knowing how to begin those conversations with my boys. So appreciate that. All right, Kelsey, you are up. If you would tell us a little bit more about how people can get connected with Pickles Group.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I shared earlier, Pickles Group provides free peer-to-peer support and resources for kids and teens impacted by their parents' cancer or a primary caregiver. Next slide. And so I also shared this, but really we were started by the kids themselves saying, I wish I could get to know other kids who understand what this is like. And on the screen, you actually see some of our original founding kids, but we just had an event in the Chicagoland area this past weekend. And we've really tripled, more than tripled in size in just our first 2 years of the organization. And we now have kids in our programs virtually across the globe. Next slide. And so we're really about creating communities of these kids supporting kids. So while the groups are facilitated by volunteers who go through an extensive training, many of who are graduate students studying child life, education, social work, nursing, and related fields of study. So there is content and structure and facilitation to the groups because we find that the kids really benefit when there is that. And we know that information about coping skills and connection to peers and communication and cancer can really help them thrive, we do follow their lead a lot in how they're supporting one another. So that is a big part of our vision. Next slide. And this is our team. So Cassie is our executive director. Cam is our program director who started in May. I'm the chief clinical officer. We have Mike Pope, our interim development director, but we also have a really robust board of directors, many of whom you might recognize in the cancer space, as well as some of our parents. And so I'm just really proud to, as a newer organization, to not be, making these decisions and these programs alone, and really relying on many individuals who have professional experience and lived experience who can help us make informed decisions that are best for kids and families across the country. Next slide. And everything that we do is really rooted in an evidence-based solution. So making sure, so there's an article in 2017 by Benet Shah that we really built our whole program off of. And so we really believe that when kids are provided with honest and age-appropriate information about their parents' cancer diagnosis, as well as learning coping and communication skills and having an opportunity to connect with peers who can relate to their lived experience, that they really can thrive and have wraparound support to move through a cancer experience and beyond. Many of the skills that we talk about are transferable to everyday life. And what we have coming up, so we kind of deliver programs in 3 really specific ways. So we have a support kit that can be requested on our website in print or PDF. That can be requested by a parent themselves, a hospital, a school, a faith-based organization. And it's really a kit that has tips in it for how to talk to kids about cancer. And then we pair that kit with a webinar that I offer monthly. And so the next one is actually next Friday at noon Central Time. And then I'll do it again one more time for the end of the year on December 19th. So that'll be an evening offering. We also want to really change the system on the healthcare providers that you are interacting with. And so I also do a version of this How to Talk to Kids About Cancer, but for the clinicians who are caring for adult oncology patients. So when you're a patient or a parent who's saying, what about my kids? We want to really empower more clinicians with skills, strategies, and tools to help you know what to do about your kids. And so that webinar is being offered on Friday, December 1st at noon. And then we're in the middle of strategic planning. So 2024 is on the horizon, but we have secured our next winter virtual cohort dates, which you can see on the screen. And that is a 5-week program. So the kids meet virtually in a closed group. So it's the same kids and facilitators from week to week. And they move through the arc of our curriculum-based program where they get to know each other, learn about cancer, and gain coping and communication skills as well. So those are kind of our different delivery models for helping kids have access to honest and age-appropriate information, coping skills, and connection to peers. So hope to see you at one of those upcoming events. And then please join our email list, follow us on all the channels so that you can have the latest and greatest as we roll out our programming for 2024. We're really looking forward to it. I think that, I got ahead of myself, but yeah, follow, request support kits. If you are a family, you can enroll your own family. If you are a clinician, you can refer a family, and then we will do the follow-up to make sure that families know what next steps to take to get their kiddos involved.
So can people other than clinicians or parents refer a family? So if you're a grandparent or somebody else who knows a family who might need some of these resources, do you all do that? Can they also participate?
Yeah, great question. So anyone can complete a referral form. It's really just providing us with information about the family. So always good practice to make sure the family knows about it, because we will follow up with them. But, taking that pressure off of them and just saying, I'm happy to make this referral for you, share their contact information with us. We'll do the following up and the outreach. And we recognize that when you're dealing with cancer, it can take a few nudges. So we're happy to check in and just build awareness so that we can be there for a family when they're ready to engage. So yeah, anyone can complete that referral form. Great question.
Thank you, Kelsey. And I love the fact that you guys offer these informational and training sessions for clinicians as well, because for those of us who are encountering the medical system, some of us for the very first time in such a significant way, that medical oncologist becomes a hub but they're not trained to do so many of the things that we put on them and ask them. And so having something that is available for clinicians, I think, is super, super important. And for those of you out there who are patients, this is something that you could share with your oncologist. Hey, you're want to learn more about how to support your patients? Here's a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about that. So definitely something that you as a patient can influence as well, because what we suggest to our oncologists then actually help other patients as well. So I'm so glad that you offer that, Kelsey. So Sara, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your partnership with Jenny Rogers at Mayo and how that came about, and what the limitations are of some of these practitioners who are trying to support families as they move through this experience.
Yeah, I think I'm very honored to be able to do the work that I do because I get to interact with so many incredible people. Like, I have interacted with each one of these organizations, and the things that you all do for the cancer community is incredible. And Jenny, who I co-wrote this book with, is one of those practitioners who reached out to me and basically asked me if I had any plans to write a book about anticipatory grief, because she has a lot of patients that come into Mayo Clinic. She deals with all kinds of different diagnoses, including cancer, obviously, but also people who have kidney disease or people who have been in major car accidents. And she's the person that helps at the hospital explain what's going on to the kids. And she really struggles with finding resources. And a lot of the people who have reached out to me have found my books because of reviews on Amazon. And then they're ordering the books and distributing them to their patients in children's hospitals. And so Jenny reached out to me and said that she used What Happens When Someone I Love Has Cancer to explain a cancer diagnosis to most of the patients that she has that have cancer, but that she was really struggling with how to have the conversation when someone has an advanced illness and they don't know how to explain that they're going to die. And so I said, that is something that I have held on my heart for many years and really haven't known how to go about writing a book about that. I have many friends with advanced illness who have passed away already and who struggled to have a conversation, even that they had cancer, with their kids. So that having to what Jenny's saying basically was, it's hard enough for me to get parents to use the cancer word, let alone prepare their kids for the fact that their life is coming to an end sooner rather than later. And she's, from her perspective, most parents don't want to have that conversation at all. I mean, who wants to have that conversation? Nobody. But they're not ready to have it until a couple of weeks before it's, probably going to happen. And so we had this whole conversation like, yeah, that is an important topic that we need to get to and are going to get to next year. But there's a middle area here where many of us, even people who have finished active treatment and have no evidence of disease, are dealing with, and people who are living with ongoing disease, where cancer doesn't just end when treatment ends. It is exhausting, and recovery, emotional recovery. I mean, I'm 6 years out of diagnosis and I just feel like I finally am a human again after so much trauma. Like there's a space in between where we need to explain to our kids why our bodies aren't working the way some of their other kids' parents are. And so that's kind of how this book came about, is basically we realized, there's two books here. And so what we wanted to do was, What Happens When Someone I Love Has Cancer goes into the science of what cancer is. So it goes into what cells are and how our bodies are made. And it's just a really lighthearted way of going about this conversation. talks about how everybody is made of cells except for Stuart the giraffe, who is in the book. But you can basically compare it to building with Legos. But because cells can build and build and build, it's like never running out of Legos. And then sometimes a broken cell gets made. And so what we wanted to do was explain how the body actually works. So then we can talk about what things might not be working the way that we want. So in the beginning, we're talking about, this is the outside of the body and this is the inside of the body and all of the different organs that are in there. So no matter what kind of disease you have, you can use this. In the back of the book, we have a link to a downloadable resource book. And it has a list of literally every chronic or terminal illness we could think of, everything from cancer to like long COVID, depression, these types of things that parents are like affecting their day-to-day ability to parent. But maybe they don't know how to explain what that, people can't even figure out how to explain this to other adults. So figuring out how to put it into kids speak was something that we really wanted to make sure that we could do in a successful way that people could really understand. So again, we're going into like how the body works and what cells are. But then after that, we talk about how doctors will do whatever they can to help a body work in the way that they would need it to work. So we're talking about drugs like chemotherapy. We're talking about oxygen. We're talking about using a cane or needing to take naps a lot of the time. What kinds of things are happening on a day-to-day basis to actually, and how they affect the kid. And then once we do that, we talk about managing expectations. So this is the feedback that I've gotten from parents who have read this book is that this is one of their favorite things included here, which is a plan A and a plan B. Basically, when you're making plans with your kids to kind of set their expectations, kids have a long list of things that they want to do every day. And this part was inspired by my own daughter had her best friend's birthday party, and we walked in the heat to a outdoor picnic. Then everybody was playing tag. Then after that, we were going to an arcade. And then after that, we were going to play laser tag. And to tell you I was filled with dread, I knew I couldn't hang. And luckily I had this conversation with my daughter beforehand, because it feels bad. It felt bad to her to be like, all the other parents are running around playing tag with their kids. And my mom is sitting in the shade looking like she's about to pass out, and that feels terrible for both of us. So the idea of creating a plan A and plan B is like, okay, you've got this long list of things to do. And maybe if I'm feeling great, we might be able to do a couple of those. Sometimes I wake up and I'm not feeling that great. And if that happens, what's our plan B? And so we have a literal list of things that you can do that are plan A and plan B that will help kids set their expectations. And they still might be a little bit disappointed, but it's better than it coming out of nowhere. And so that's the first step of coping. And then we're going into processing feelings and talking about how we feel and why that there's a benefit to that. And then all the different types of coping that you can, different strategies, why we need more than one strategy, because sometimes one might work and the next time it doesn't. And that's normal and expected. And it doesn't mean that it's never going to work again. And again, just sharing with the parent or with the other parent, I had a hard day. Like, this doesn't feel good. And giving the parent permission to say, yeah, I had a hard day too. How are we going to get through the next 5 minutes? What do we need to do right now in order to feel better? Because sometimes wrapping things up in a nice bow feels really disingenuous and can feel very invalidating. And so that's really like not what we want to do here. And so sometimes stuff just sucks, and having a metastatic breast cancer just sucks. And it's okay to say, to your kids, right now just sucks and I'm sorry. We're going to get through it together. What do we need to do right now in order to feel better right now? That's validating, and that is real life. And so then we're talking about all the confusing feelings that can lead to. And there's just, we can do hard things together, and there are a lot of different kinds of grownups that are always there to support you. Again, like ending with a community that we can hopefully build for our kids, because that makes all the difference, both for us as patients, but also for our kids to know there's lots of grownups, there's lots of people who care and are there to support them.
Thank you, Sara. That was a lovely overview of your book. We've already read it a couple of times in our household. And, we talk a lot about bad cells and how, the chemo or the medication is taking care of the bad cells. And I try to equate that sometimes with germs, like germs are bad too, and they create bad things in the body. But I loved the artwork, and my kids really connected with it as well. So I'm excited to have your book be more widely available to parents to be able to have these conversations, but great life skills also, right? Because how many times as adults do we need a plan A, B, C, D, all the way down the list sometimes, and having that ability to not dwell on plan A didn't work, but okay, we've already thought about plan B and let's move on to that thing. So totally outside of cancer and all of this stuff, that's just a great life skill. So really appreciate you going through your book. So there's been a couple of people in the comments talking about how they were diagnosed when their kid was 2 and now their kid is a teenager, or they were diagnosed even recently and they've got a 2-year-old and a 14-year-old. So I wanted to pass this question on to Carissa and to Kelsey about just, as things change, as our kids get older, because thank God we've got medicine now that is allowing so many of us with metastatic breast cancer to live longer. But as the needs of our children change, how can Bright Spot and Pickles be a part of that? Now I'm coughing, Airn. How can your organizations be a part of that change? So Carissa, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, you bet. I think the thing that most parents, kids, families have to struggle with when you're dealing with a chronic metastatic disease is ambiguity. It is so hard to navigate that as an adult. And then as a kid or a teen, it's alien, right? And so I think that's why books like Sarah's book and The Cancer That Wouldn't Go Away, anything that helps parents to understand living in the gray, and how to cope with being just present and in the now, those are great resources, right? So I think specifically at Bright Spot, those are topics that our support groups tackle all of the time. And not only parents sharing resources, but just practical tips on how they're doing it. And I think parents really learn a lot from one another. And a lot of our parents are, they're ranging of having a baby to a lot of our parents do have teenagers. And so what's lovely is that within a group, they all have different age kids and can really, give and take support and thoughts, resources. And I think that's where I see a lot of the magic happening, are the parents that are living it now being able to share with one another.
That's lovely. Kelsey, would you like to weigh in? I think you also wanted to talk about how you guys have some in-person support options with the Pickles Group as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So regarding your question, I completely agree with Carissa, just adapting, resources to a child's age. And I think something I cover a lot in our How to Talk to Kids About Cancer is when preparing for difficult conversations with children, we often think about the child right in front of us, but really trying to think about who that child will be in, 5, 10, 15 years. And so really wanting to initiate those conversations using simple language that then you can build on as your child ages, so that you have an opportunity to add to that narrative, and be able to say, remember how we talked about this? And if it's a situation where maybe you haven't had those conversations because your child has been so young, there also might be a time in your experience where you're saying to your child, you're getting so much older now that I thought you might be ready for some more information about why I go to the doctor or why I take medicine, right? So it's never like too late, right? You're actually following their lead by assessing, like, I think you're ready for more information. I talk a lot about the need to know, what's happening right in front of a child that they need to know. And then there's the want to know, like, what are they asking about? So your child may start getting older and say, why do you take that medicine? Tell me more about that, right? And then you're knowing that, I think they're ready for more information, and you can build on those conversations that you have or have not already started. So that can be really important. And often kids are really grateful that they had the opportunity, the kids that are saying, I'm so glad I knew versus I wish I had known. So being able to start small, start simple, and really build as a child ages. And I think that comes up a lot for cancer diagnoses that were pre-existing before a child's birth. And then I just wanted to mention that we do have an in-person program in the Chicagoland area. And so we have a few signature events that we offer throughout the year. And as we grow and scale, we envision a world where we have those in-person events throughout the country, but it's really gonna take us really generating those populations in different areas and communities. So as I said, we're just turning the corner on our third year as an organization, but I did want to highlight that if you are local to the Chicagoland area, that's an option for your family as well to engage in both of our offerings.
Thank you for that, Kelsey. I appreciate that. So I would encourage all of you, if you are parenting with a metastatic breast cancer or some other type of cancer, to find your community. We've given you some options here tonight to pursue or to connect, but finding your people and finding other people who are in a similar situation to you can be the difference between really, really struggling and knowing that you can do it.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to our show. I would like to acknowledge that all of the information on our podcast are from personal experiences and are not a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always contact your medical care team. If you're looking for specific topics or would like to be a guest on our show, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is laura@survivingbreastcancer.org. Until next time, keep on thriving.